Converting raw data into z-score in Excel. Z-score is a standard score that has a normal distribution with a mean equal to 0 and a standard deviation equal to 1. When converting normally distributed raw data into a z-score, the standard z-score distribution will be the same as the normal raw data. Why do we convert data into z-score? Z-score allow comparisons between group of data or groups of data that are measured at different unit or different scale. Here in this Excel, I had inserted a data for 100 cases, and we have here three set of data, or three groups of data: data 1, data 2, data 3, to compare the scores within these data. We will convert the data into a z-score as given here in the formula. Z is equal to x minus the sample mean divided by the standard deviation. So to calculate the z-score for data 1, 2, and 3, we first have to calculate the mean and the standard deviation for each one of these data set. And to do that, click here in this cell and insert the equal sign, and then type average and select the average function or command, and then select the range of the data to calculate the average for. Click on the score here in this data 1, select Control Shift and select the arrow key that's pointing to the down or below arrow key. The data are selected, and then click on enter. A mean is calculated for data 1. To auto calculate and auto fill the mean for the rest of the set of data, select the cell here, hold, drag, and then release. A mean is calculated for the rest of the data. To calculate the standard deviation, insert the equal sign, then type standard deviation or ST, and then scroll and select the standard deviation for the sample for S. Once this selected, select the range for the scores to enter. For data 1, we're going to select the first score, and then click on Control Shift, and then keep holding Control Shift and click on the arrow heading down arrow. This set of data will be selected. Click on enter. A standard deviation is calculated for data number 1. To autofill and auto calculate the standard deviation for the rest of the data, hold, drag, and release. Now we have the mean and the standard deviation for each set of data, and I'm going just to reduce the decimal into decimal figure as shown here into 1 decimal point. Now we have the mean and the standard deviation. I'm going to use this formula to calculate the z-score for data number 1. To do that, click here, insert the equal sign, open a bracket, select the first score from data 1, add minus sign, select the mean for the data 1, and we're going to do to make this value as an absolute reference. So click on F4 and then close the bracket, divide that by the standard deviation for data number 1. We're going to make that as an absolute reference. So click on F4, then click on enter. A z-score is calculated for the first score in the data labeled 1. To autofill and auto-calculate for the rest of the score, hold and then drag and then release to autofill and auto-calculate. So a standard score is generated for each individual score in this raw data number 1. To calculate the z-score for the second data set, repeat the same thing. Insert the equal sign, open a bracket, select the score from data 2, and then add a minus sign, then select the mean for data 2 and make that as a reference, absolute reference. Close the bracket, divide that by the standard deviation and click on enter. A z-score is calculated for the first score. To autofill and auto-calculate, drag, hold and release. A z-score is generated for data number 2 and the same for data number 3. Bracket, insert the score from data number 3, the first score, add a minus sign, then insert the mean for data number 3, make that as an absolute reference, close the bracket, divide that by the standard deviation for data number 3, make that as a reference, click on enter. Z-score is generated for the first score in the data and auto-fill and auto-calculate the rest of the z-score for the scores in data 3. So here we have now all the data for data 1, 2 and 3 has been converted or transformed into z-score that has a mean of 0 and standard deviation of 1. Thus it will be easier here to compare the scores in between these 3 different groups. So this is the way to convert raw data into z-score in Excel.